Every year, as we emerge from the sadness of Tisha B'Av, we are greeted by the stirring words of Yeshayahu Hanavi in the Haftarah, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, comfort, comfort my people. These opening words set the tone for a period of consolation, offering reassurance, hope, and the promise that the pain of exile is not permanent. It is fitting that these words were entrusted to Yeshayahu, for among all the prophets, he is remembered as the great prophet of consolation and a herald of the Jewish people's glorious future. Yet this raises an intriguing question. Why was Yeshayahu chosen above all other Nevi'im to console the Jewish people and proclaim their ultimate redemption? The Tana de Be'eliyahu addresses precisely this question. It tells the story how a student once asked in the great Beis Medrash in Yerushalayim as to why Yeshayahu merited to deliver prophecies of consolation and of a promising future. The answer given is that when Hashem was looking for a Navi and asked, Esmi eshlach umi yelech lanu, whom should I send and who will go for us? Yeshayahu responded immediately and with happiness, Hineni shlacheni, here I am, send me. Unlike other Nevi'im who may accepted their mission reluctantly, Yeshayahu embraced it wholeheartedly and with joy. It was that willing acceptance of Hashem's mission that made him worthy not only to rebuke, but also to proclaim words of comfort and hope. The double expression itself is telling. Whom shall I send refers to the formal appointment, the designation of a messenger, but who will go for us speaks to something deeper, the inner willingness to embrace the mission wholeheartedly and with simcha. Yet clarification is needed as to why, at this moment in history, did Hashem ask, whom should I send and who will go for us? Nowhere else do we find Hashem issuing such a call. The answer is rooted in the very nature of the generation in which Yeshayahu lived. Chazal in the Gemara Sanhedrin Tzadi Ches teach that Mashiach will come either in a generation that is entirely righteous or in one that is entirely wicked. Throughout history, Hashem chose Nevi'im for generations where the spiritual reality was clear. Usually, it was in a time of open sinfulness and corruption that demanded rebuke. For example, Moshe Rabbeinu arose when our ancestors were sinking into the depths of Egyptian slavery, having descended to the 49th level of Tumah. Shmuel appeared during the turbulent era of the Shoftim, when anarchy reigned. Eliyahu confronted the corruption of Achav, who ruled with wickedness. Most Nevi'im in the era of the first Beis Hamikdash addressed a nation that was plagued by idolatry, immorality, and bloodshed. Yeshayahu faced a more difficult challenge as he lived in a far more complex era. Outwardly, his generation appeared stable and religious, yet beneath the surface lay subtle spiritual decline. It was precisely for such a generation that Hashem sought a uniquely qualified Navi, someone who can penetrate beyond appearances, discern the hidden deficiencies, and at the same time recognize the concealed greatness within. He lived during an age that appeared, at least on the surface, to be spiritually healthy. The Beis Hamikdash stood, karbanos were offered, most of the kings of Yehuda were righteous. Outwardly, everything seemed to be functioning as it should, but beneath that respectable exterior, Yeshayahu discerned a subtle but dangerous disease. Spiritual mediocrity. Spiritual mediocrity is not open rebellion against Hashem. It is something far more deceptive. It blurs the distinction between truth and falsehood. It creates the illusion that everything is satisfactory when, in reality, commitment has become diluted. Yeshayahu describes a society in which opposites coexist comfortably. Torah exists, yet its influence is weakened. Wisdom exists, yet genuine understanding is lacking. Righteousness and wickedness stand side by side until neither is fully appreciated. The spiritually mediocre person gradually loses the ability to distinguish between genuine spiritual growth and mere routine. He thinks he knows everything, yet in truth he knows very little. He believes he understands everything, yet understands almost nothing. Most dangerous of all, he is content with himself, satisfied with what he has achieved, and even with what he has failed to achieve. Such complacency dulls the mind, chills the heart, and shrinks the soul. The greatest danger of spiritual mediocrity is that it resists rebuke. The tzaddikim welcome Musar because they long to improve. Even the Rishayim may recognize their failures and listen to rebuke. But the Beinanim, the spiritually mediocre, believe there is nothing wrong. They fulfill many mitzvos, ascend to the Beis HaMikdash several times a year, bring their offerings, and therefore assume that everything is in order. How can anyone criticize them? It was precisely to such a generation that Yeshayahu proclaimed Hashem's painful words. Lamer li rov sifchechem, ki savo leiros panai, mi bikesh zos miedchem remos chatzeroi. What need have I of your many sacrifices? When you come to appear before me, who asked this of you, to trample my courtyards? To those in this generation, these words seem incomprehensible. The nation appeared religious, yet Yeshayahu saw beneath the surface. He declared, Kaspe chayol sigim sav'ech mahu b'mayim. Your silver has become dross. Your wine is diluted with water. Everything looked genuine, yet it had lost its purity. Religious observance and commitment had become mixed with compromise. This was Yeshayahu's unique gift. He could recognize the darkness hidden within apparent light, and that very ability qualified him to perceive something else that no one else could fully see. Conversely, if he could discover darkness where others saw only light, then he could also discover light where everyone else saw only darkness. That is why Yeshayahu merited not only to become the prophet of rebuke, but also the prophet of consolation and of the Jewish people's glorious future. No Navi describes the ultimate redemption with greater breadth, beauty, and confidence. Even while witnessing moral confusion and spiritual decline, Yeshayahu perceived within Klal Yisrael a deep and enduring potential, a capacity for greatness that could never be extinguished, no matter how hidden it might appear, destined to emerge when they would become an or l'goyim, a light unto the nations. With this understanding of Yeshayahu's times, the double expression of Nachamu, Nachamu Ami takes on deeper meaning. The Midrash teaches that just as the Jewish people sinned in a double manner, so too they are consoled in a double manner. Nachamu, Nachamu. Their double sin was that they lived in two worlds at once. They maintained the forms of religious life, yet allowed their commitment to become diluted and perverted. Light and darkness, truth and compromise, holiness and complacency existed side by side. Such a divided existence required a double consolation. As we hear Yeshayahu's call of Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, we are reminded never to mistake religious routine for genuine closeness to Hashem. Yeshayahu challenges us to look beyond appearances and ask ourselves whether our mitzvos are transforming us or merely comforting us. When we have the courage to answer that question honestly, we can look into the future with confidence, knowing that the glorious vision Yeshayahu foresaw for Klal Yisrael will one day become a reality. Shabbat Shalom.